Right now, I can't see the thing.
Oh my goodness.
Islam. I rise in thought and give praises to Allah and honors the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to our guest speakers, Brother R. Jones Bay and Sister D. Jones Bay. I give honors to our viewers, listeners, and everyone who's tuning in to Universal Love for some uplifting information. Here today on Universal Love, we're gonna have a open discussion on the topic of man reasonable's companion. And I would now have my wife introduce herself.
Islam. My name is Sister D. Bay. I'm a member of Moorish National Home Number 1. And praise Allah. I give praises to Allah and honors to our Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And now I hand it over to our guest speakers so they can introduce themselves. Peace.
Islam. I'm Sister D. Jones Bay. I'm a member of Temple Number 71 in Washington, D.C.
I'm Brother R. Jones Bay. And I'm a member of Temple Number 71, Washington, D.C., and also Grand Sheikh and moderator of the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Praise Allah.
Yeah.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Well, as we stated today, we're going to have a discussion on man's reasonable companion, because in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we learned that when you unite two hearts together, you become one. And the Prophet let us know it's a key fundamental of building a family. And it's important for each one to know their role and to strengthen that bond that unite us as a family and as a household. Yeah. And with that being said, we're gonna go to the first question led by Sister D. Adams Bay.
Islam. So first, I'm going to take a reading from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his Father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen state of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his Father God Allah. And I'm going to take a reading from chapter 21, marriage instructions for man and wife from the noble prophet. And I'm going to read the first 3 divine instructions, which are will pretty much kind of set the tone for this evening and pretty much let you all know what we're speaking about when we speak about man's reasonable companion.
Islam.
And it reads, give ear, fair daughter of love, to the instructions of prudence, and let the precepts of truth sink deep in thy heart. So shall the charms of thy mind add luster to the elegance of thy form, and thy beauty, like the rose of resemblance, shall retain its sweetness when its bloom is withered. In the spring of thy youth, in the morning of thy days, when the eyes of men gaze on thee with delight, and nature whispereth in thine ear the meaning of their looks, hear with caution their seducing words. Guard well thy heart, nor listen to their soft persuasions. Remember, thou art made man's reasonable companion, not the slave of his passion. The end of thy being is not merely to gratify his loose desire, but to assist him in the toils of life, to soothe his heart with thy tenderness, and recompense his care with soft endearments. So the first question is going to be for Sister D. Jones Bay. And why do you think that the prophet is speaking directly to the sisters in this? And, we understand that it's good for our brothers to be aware of this as well. But why do you think the prophet is asking the sisters to give ear and to remember these things?
Islam.
Islam.
Well, the first thought that comes to my mind is that the prophet is trying to tell us who we are as women, as sisters. And giving us, showing us our value, our worth.
Islam.
And I think that he's also trying to prepare us for dealing with men, brothers, dealing with the world and society, and by showing us how they perceive women and letting us know that we don't have to be like that. We don't have to conform to what society says we should be, who society says we should be. We can remember that we are made in the image and after the likeness of our Father God, Allah, and that we are precious in His sight, and that we want to be what He wants us to be and be pleasing to Him. We want to remember that we're spiritual beings, not carnal beings.
Islam.
And I think that it also helps us as sisters, as women, to be prepared to deal with those who do see us, see women in a carnal way. So we won't be blindsided by the things that we may experience through the course of our life. It says, fair daughter of love, and the bloom, we still have before the bloom is weathered, when we're still young and beautiful and vibrant. We're always beautiful, but you know that youthful
Praise Allah.
when we're young ladies, when we're young, and we can be rather naive and innocent, and hopefully in still in a pure state of mind. And we may not be aware of the things that men can think and do, and we may not be so experienced in the ways of the world. So the prophet, again, is giving us love. Mm-hmm. He's showing us how to deal with that, to be ready for that, and how to avoid the traps that can set for us as women. So that's what I think. I think it's another lesson in knowing yourself and how we can be ourselves in this world, in this for us in this society that we live in, because we know they have some false and not so nice perceptions of women.
Islam. And Brother R. Jones Bey, as a brother, when you read those divine instructions, how do they make you feel? And what is your perspective on them as a brother?
How do they make me feel, and what's my perspective on them as a brother? Well, one thing I'm coming to the realization of, and I'm growing into the realization of, when he refers to her as fair daughter of love. I had to think about that because I'm trying to think about, well, now what does that mean? Fair daughter of love. I mean, just being a fair daughter is one thing, but to be a fair daughter of love, I mean, that's something else, right? So, I mean, I got to give some consideration to that because, you know, when I first read it, I wouldn't even consider, oh, okay, fair daughter of love, it sounds good. So I just would go through that and just move through it. But fair daughter of love, it sounds like to me, he's talking about those who are committed. Those who listen to instructions that are divine. So give ear, what? Give ear, listen. Fair daughter of love, because that's what you are. You are a fair daughter of love. You're not a slave to one's passions, especially men.
Islam. Islam.
You know, you're not a slave. I mean, look what he identifies him as. Give ear, fair daughter of love. He's identifying them. The prophet is letting them know who they are.
Right.
They are daughters of love. They are daughters of God. God is love. Allah is love.
Islam.
So, I mean, I have to think about all these things now. I didn't start out thinking like that. You know, I have to grow into this. I have to grow and learn to appreciate, you know, the different phases of relationships. with a fair daughter of love. You know, I got to conduct myself a certain way to learn to appreciate what it means to have a fair daughter of love, because that's who I have. Identified by God himself. You have a fair daughter of love. I mean, think about it.
Islam.
And I mean, if you're striving to try to do what's right, you want to acknowledge that's who she is. So let me get some respect here. You know, even when I'm going through all my trials and tribulations, I got to remember who she is.
Praise Allah.
So when I heard it, I mean, I'm not recently, but I've gradually come into the thought pattern of appreciating what he says in that first instruction to her. Because for me, he identifies her. Now, suppose I can't see her like that, I'm going to mistreat her.
Islam.
So I got to be able to see her like that. And of course, you know, that only is available to me if I'm seeing or if I'm following the instructions myself. Because if I'm not following instructions myself, I don't see her as no fair daughter of love. I see her in a limited way. What role is she playing? She's my friend, she's my companion, she's the wife of my bosom. Maybe if I don't see her as a fair daughter of love, I get stuck in a friendship and try to force her to be a companion or try to force her to be a wife.
Wow.
So, you know, I mean, that verse, just that one instruction, it triggers a lot of thoughts, because you have to acknowledge who you have with you once you have decided that she's going to be whom Allah has joined together with you.
Islam.
Islam, that's very true. And something you said made me want to take another reading from the Holy Quran, chapter 22, Duty of a Husband,
Yes.
where it reads Divine Instruction 4. But when thou findest sensibility of heart,
Yes.
joined with softness of manners and accomplished mind, but the form agreeable to thy fancy,
Yes.
take her home to thy house. She is worthy to be thy friend, thy companion in life, the wife of thy bosom.
That's right.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. So praise Allah.
Yeah, praise Allah.
Look at this, Adam's Day. When you read that, did you see the form agreeable to your fancy is last? Sensibility,
Islam. Islam.
joined with softness of manners and accomplished mind, then with a form agreeable to your fancy. Meaning to me, I can't look at that first.
Islam.
Right.
Yeah. And society teaches you to look at that first.
That's right.
Yeah, society.
Always society is prompting us to look at our sisters with the fleshly eye.
Yes, from the exterior. Yeah.
Yeah. Because once you start viewing and accepting the flesh, there's a current of thought that starts to come into play.
Oh.
You may not learn to appreciate her like you should, because the first thing you looked at was the flesh.
And then when that changes, you want to leave. Yeah, you want to leave. Yeah.
Or when you tire of your extracurricular activities,
right.
you're tired, you know, you look for something else.
Right.
So yeah, fair daughter of love.
And I think that's also why the following verses say, you know, you're not a slave to his passions.
That's right.
You're his helpmate in
That's
life.
right. That's right.
And that's not only for the brother, but it's for the sister to remember you're still your own person and you still have control over your own self. You're not anyone's slave. You're not anyone's property. You know, just because you're married doesn't mean he can just do anything he wants to you, and you're supposed to go along with it, and it's supposed to be okay.
Yeah. And I think it's because people take the word obey, they take that word and try to manipulate it for their best interest.
Yeah.
Prophet say, obey me. So you just do what I say. I don't want to hear nothing back. That ain't what the prophet's saying.
That ain't what he's saying.
No, it's not what
he's saying. You know, don't you know what I have learned this and praise Allah for helping me to learn it. Obey doesn't even have to come up in the conversation.
Islam.
You know, I don't even have to say you need to obey me.
Right.
All I have to do is be me.
Be it. Yeah.
Because if I be me, I mean, that's what happens. Why wouldn't you want to listen to somebody that's being themselves and has shown you that they respect you and is showing you that they listen to you?
Right.
You know, it's a funny thing. You know, sometimes we have a tendency to want to be the boss, to tell people what to do. But you know what I'm learning? It's communication. In communication, there is no boss. There is an acceptance of the role that each plays.
Wow. And it's an open line.
It's an open line.
Yeah, it's an open line.
You know, look, I don't want to get off this program making people think that everything is perfect in a
No,
relationship.
it's not. Right, it's not.
I mean,
Right.
because you learn from the difficult challenges that you have to go through. That makes the bond stronger if you're being real.
Islam.
The reason a lot of relationships fail is because they have not, or sometimes we don't always accept being real.
Mm.
And we don't often want to yield or to compromise.
Right, that's right.
You see it as giving in.
Giving in.
Giving
Or
in.
having your way.
Yeah.
You know, that whole thing, about the obeying, this is how I feel about it and what I think about that. We know that the husband is the head of the family. We know that the wife is the head of the household and has the care of the children that she is responsible for. If you're with a brother who is striving to live the life accordingly, to obey Allah and his prophet, and you're trying to do the same, why would I not want to listen to what he asks me to do? Because then I know I trust enough that he's trying to tell me something right, something that's good for me, good for all of us, and that he wouldn't ask me to do something he's not willing to do himself. And the same with him and me. If I ask something, it shouldn't have to be a whole lot of questioning and thinking and wondering in your mind, well, wait a minute, if she's asking me, I know it's for a reason and that she's got my benefit, my good at heart. So what is there to think about? Let's just do it. Let's just get it done. And so it's not an obeying in the sense of I tell you what to do.
Right.
You follow me.
Right.
It's a acceptance of, like he said, one another's role and the trust and the bond that is between the two of you.
Yeah.
That makes you willingly concede to do what is being asked of you by your partner, your companion, your loved one.
I agree with
And,
that.
I wanted to add something. First, I wanted to read something from the Quran, what you would just say about something you just said, Sister D. Jones Bay. It's in chapter 21, where she presided in the house and there is peace. She commanded for judgment and is obeyed. That's pretty much one of the things you just said. And, one thing I also notice in society, sometimes people interchange the words obey and submit. And in certain contexts, they can mean the same thing, but ultimately, in my opinion, for us, it doesn't, because in the Holy Quran, it speaks about submitting to the will of Allah.
That's right.
It doesn't say anywhere for any of us to submit to one another. Only one where mentioned submitting is to Allah.
That's right.
The Prophet says to obey our husbands,
That's right.
not to submit. So I think sometimes when we come from out in Asia into the temple, we hear that we associate it with submit. We kind of get a little, I don't know about that.
Right.
But I just wanted to put that out there, that those two words are different.
That's right.
Praise Allah.
That's right.
Praise Allah.
It's funny though.
But you can be submitting
Yeah.
in the sense that you're yielding.
But why not yield if there's no opposition?
You're giving. You're giving in. You're surrendering to what the other person is asking of you, or you're surrendering to to them. I want to do this, he wants to do that. Well, which one is the best for both of us?
Right.
Well, okay, we'll do that. I'll submit, I'll give in to that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
the praise Allah, the prophet is teaching us to think about the language we use
Islam.
and not see it from one way
Right.
and not see it, you know, again, from a carnal point of view.
Right.
Islam.
Right.
You know,
Right.
we are taught that these words mean one thing,
Right.
but we are learning that they have many
Yeah.
meanings.
Yeah, various
And
men.
we are using the one that is appropriate for us,
Yeah.
our situation,
Yeah.
and who we are as a people.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You know, we don't have to look at it as something negative,
Right.
because we know what it really means,
That's
and
right.
not just what society has chosen to make it mean
Right. That's
Yes.
right.
in their narrow, limited way.
Right. That's right. That's right. But what about this, honey? What about this? We're talking about obey. Obey that's found in the divine constitution of the Moorish Science Temple of America, meaning that word has a divinity associated with it.
Islam.
Now we look at it from the carnal point of view. You better do what I tell you. That ain't what that word means.
Right.
Not in the context that the prophet is saying it. You can't make me believe that the prophet has given us a word obey to the man, and we supposed to tell our companion or our wife or our friend, you better do what I say. That ain't what that word means.
Right.
That word has a divine significance in relationships. See, because that obey may not be the obey that we're talking about.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
Right.
it's divine.
Islam.
It's divine. See, what I find out sometimes too more, sometimes it's difficult for us to transition from what the prophet says and from what we have learned in the world to believe that a word means.
Yeah.
We find it
Yeah.
difficult. The prophet's language is a totally different language with a totally different meaning based on the divine concept that he himself represents.
Right.
It's not carnal. We are the ones who fail to make the transition in our communication.
Yeah, because he let us know when he spoke spirit. So
Every word I speak is
divine.
spirit.
Islam. So it's
So,
divine.
now,
Islam.
so when I'm reading the prophet's words, I gotta be careful that I don't overlap my carnal acceptance of certain words with him.
And that comes with
But the
practice and
language-
growth.
Yeah.
Right. That comes with practice and growth.
But you got to be a striver.
Right.
See, if you're not a striver, you're not going to see it because you're going to be satisfied with what you think you already know, which is very little, or in many cases, nothing.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but when you come over, when you striving, when you start to say, you know, I'm going to commit myself, or I'm going to accept this way of life, that life no longer should have an impact on your decision or your choice making, because now you're being led by a divine thought.
Mm.
So my wife looks different to me. You know, I mean, the word wife, companion, friend, it means something different to me than what it meant in the world.
So.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, so that's the only thing that really kept us together. The thing that really kept us together is that we're trying to be a submitter to the will of God. That's the only thing. Because I know it's difficult to be with me.
Yeah, and same here. Same,
Sometimes
same here.
sometimes I purposely make it difficult because I like the entertainment. But I'm just saying. But
Right.
even to get to that point,
Right.
you see what I'm saying? You have to make a transition.
Right.
You don't make a transition and start to understand the language that's different than what the language is over here. It's going to be difficult.
And you have to want to do it. It
You
has
gotta
to,
wanna do it.
it has to be important enough to you to want to do it, to want to have a good marriage, to want to put in front the happiness of the person you're with, you know, and not just yourself. And that helps to make it easy to obey Allah and his prophet's law.
Yeah, that's right.
And it makes it a happier and more fulfilling and more peaceful experience for
Yeah,
you, for you both,
That's right.
when you do that.
That's right.
That, like everything else with the prophet's lessons, we first have to have the desire.
That's right. That's right.
Islam. And so, you go ahead.
All right. So how long have you two been married?
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's just more of a test than a question.
Uh-oh.
30 years more.
All right, I saw beat sweat over there. Praise Allah.
Wait, I didn't hear. How long?
30 years.
Praise Allah.
Mhm.
Wow.
And
I was a mere baby when I met
Don't
him.
even try.
but he-
Don't try.
Don't even try. You know what that looks like? You was a well, not a baby. I was young. Still young. Oh, yeah.
Tell everybody that.
Yeah.
so, and sometimes we know that in life that we're tested, with emotions, and sometimes in certain circumstances they can get the best of us. So how do you both make sure that within your, how do you make sure in those moments that your companionship stays within the bounds of reason? Because sometimes when you're upset, you can make outrageous requests, you can come out of your character and the sorts. So how do you keep it within the bounds of reason, being really reasonable?
Well, I tell you, when one escapes from himself and perceives not how, when you get out there, usually she'll pull me up and I can hear it.
Yeah.
I can hear it.
I
Just
can
like
hear
I
it.
hope that, and just like I hope that she can hear me. Because see, once it starts to get kind of turbulent, I'm looking for a way out. And I know the only way out to calm this turbulence that 9 chances out of 10 I've contributed to majorly is I got to hear him. I got to hear him because this is the challenge. This is the opportunity to either strengthen the relationship or cause the relationship to be severed. This is the challenge. This is the opportunity for you to take what you believe in and try to implement it to see that this really works.
Right.
So yeah, and I tell you something else that's important. Laughter. You got to make jokes.
Oh yeah.
You got to laugh.
Yeah,
you got to point out those little things and make fun of them. I mean, you got to laugh. If you don't have no laughter in your relationship, it is going to be boring and it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
You got to see the brighter side of life. Rather laugh at his follies.
Yeah.
You got to laugh at the follies.
Yeah. 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 Because I know when I look at it from me in that perspective, I know my beautiful wife, she's quick to, and what she should, she goes to the Quran and she'll pull an instruction. I'd be like, I have to humble myself, Sometimes that lower self be like, ignore it, keep doing what you're doing. And I'd be like, nah, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But praise Allah, though, that's what strengthens our relationship, though.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. One thing about being right now playing in the role that I'm in, that Allah is allowing me to play at the moment. Who knows what the role may be tomorrow? But at this moment, I'm playing the role. The role is the head of the movement. Now, being the head of the movement, you can entertain from time to time what is known as the science of being big-headed. It can swell. I mean, let's just be real. It can swell. If you don't have the right person with you, vanity can engulf you in such a way that you can justify it by saying, well, I'm the head of the movement.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So you have to have someone with you who you can hear him. And they're not trying to discredit you or demean you, when they start to deflate your big headedness, they're doing it because you have escaped from yourself.
Yeah.
You're thinking a little bit too much about yourself. So, but you got to have somebody that you respect that's, is not going to tell you anything that's going to hurt you. And you may want to buck for a minute.
It's
Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm the Grand Sheik. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying, Mo?
Islam.
So you got to have somebody more that you listen to, Mo, to bring you back here. So you can balance yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I understand why the whole process of friend companionship, the wife of your bosom, is so important.
Islam.
And you're going to make mistakes, Mo. But if you have solidified each phase of that evolving to the wife, and with the wife, Allah alone joins two hearts to make them one.
Islam.
We can reach that point. We've been blessed to have somebody on earth to help us pass through these ways of life.
Islam. And yeah. So, Brother R. Jones Bey, when and how did you realize that you had found your reasonable companion?
Hey, Mo, I'm still evolving into the realization of that. I'm still evolving into the realization of that. Because I'm learning that, people, when they're trying to do right, it's so many different layers of them.
Islam.
That you start to see as they start to grow and unfold. So I'm learning, wow, man, I didn't know what I had. I didn't see this yesterday. Wow. But now, oh man, I did. She just did something for me a couple of days ago. She brought something to my attention, and she brought it to my attention. And when she brought it to my attention, I needed it. But then I stopped for a minute and I said, wow, man.
Wow.
Yeah. You brought me out of that. You brought me out of it. And so I'm still realizing that she is the one.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And because in the earlier stages of the relationship, your lower self is, well, you see what she just said. You see what she just said. You can see how she just responded to you. Because all of this is trying to throw you off course.
Right.
But if you trust Allah, He'll show you just how blessed you are to be with who you with. And I'm still learning. So to answer your question, I'm still learning that. And I'm accepting each time it's revealed, I accept more of it. But really appreciate all of it. She's, that's Allah. She's a spirit. I may not even get to the point where I can see it all before I leave this earth, but I'm seeing enough of it to be comfortable with where I'm at, and grateful that I'm here,
Yeah.
Praise Allah. And we have a question from the audience. It says, has there ever been any moments that you felt you needed space but under the same roof? And how did you deal with those feelings?
I do that all the time. I need my space. She needs her space.
On my last nerve.
Don't tell me.
And I know I get on his last nerve. You got enough else to do what you in here for. Leave me alone. I need some space. Every day. What?
Yeah.
Like I said, we are still two individuals.
That's right.
Allah has joined us together.
Right.
We have learned enough about one another that we know this is where we want to be, and we're still excited or encouraged and moved when we learn something new and different about one another. But there's still those times when, you had a life before you got married. You'll have a life, Allah willing, if one of you is to leave, you know, be it that you pass or that you leave, but you don't forget who you are, and you try not to stop being who you are. You try not to get so absorbed into the other person that you disappear. And so you still have the things that you like to do,
That's right.
that you want to be about. That
That's right.
is, you know, anything that's important to him is important to me, and I support it. But it doesn't mean I have to be doing it. You
That's
know, you like it, go, okay. I'm
Right.
glad you like it. Go on and do it.
That's right.
I'm going to do this over here because this is what I like and what I want to do.
That's right.
And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you're not connected, that you are wrong for each other because you don't like all the same things.
Right.
It means, you know, I think about things one way, about some things one way that you think differently about. And so we pursue those things, or we have moments and times when we can enjoy those things and
Right.
still come, it gives you something to come back and talk about.
That's for real.
Being away, you know, even if it's for a day or two, as they say, I believe it's really true. Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to go away for 2 months or be on a trip or away for work or whatever. Having spent the day by myself, I think about him, and I think about what I'm going to share with him when I come back to him, with him. So I think, you know, not only is it okay that you have times when you want to be separate, I think it's healthy, and it helps you to grow, and it helps you to not lose a sense of yourself and who you are and what you are about as a person, as a child of Allah.
Yeah.
Praise Allah.
Praise Allah. You know, that's true. So true. It says absence makes the heart fonder, because Brother Agnes Bay, when we met, he was living in Virginia, I was living in New York, and we would go up and down to see each other, and like, you know, we would obviously miss each other. But when I moved in and I would see him more, not that that feeling went away, but I kind of forgot about it. And then like when he started staying at work some nights, and then that's when I started realizing, like, man, I miss him being around.
Yeah.
You know, I remember that feeling,
That's right.
you know.
Right.
And then like now, this is one of those bittersweet feelings, you know, when, because we recently moved in, he was off for a week, and when he was on paternity leave, he was off for 3 months. When he's home for a long time, I get used to the feeling, and then I'm all happy. And then when he goes back to work, it's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
that adjustment. So, you know, that's, space is, you know, it has its ups and downs. you
Then
know.
you'll get to the point where it's like, oh, he's been home for a week. Oh, he's going back Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one.
And it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
natural. All right. And Sister D. Jones Bay, the next question is for you. When Brother R. Jones Bay became the Grand Sheikh and moderator, how much of an adjustment was it for you in regards to being his reasonable companion and assisting him in the toils of life?
You know, the first thing that came to my mind is Michelle Obama.
Oh,
You know, it was an adjustment. You know, if I'm going to be honest, and I want to be honest, it wasn't an adjustment, because that's not what I had planned for my life.
Right.
You know, that wasn't where I saw myself being in 5, 10, 15 years. But here I am. I'm with this person, and that is where he is. And so adjust, you know, but it did take some adjusting, because now you're not just a family. Now he belongs to everyone and not just you. And you have to adjust to that there are going to be times when you wish and want, I wished and wanted him to be with me and with the family, and he had to be somewhere else. He had to be doing something else.
Right.
I always knew before we even had children, I always knew that Allah and the Prophet come first.
Islam.
You know, that's just how it is. They come first. And so I just thought, well, as long as I'm a close second, I can live with that. You know, because sometimes when you get married, you're like, well, I'm first, and you don't put nobody else before me. And if I need something, I'm supposed to be, you're supposed to, you know, be there and take care of it. But, you know, that's not who he is. And that's not what kind of life we have. Allah and the Prophet comes first, period. So I learned to get in line with that and to be at peace with that and to want to support that. Because not only is it something that is important to him and important to the nation, the people that he strives to serve, but it's important to me that he feel free to do what he needs to do. Feel free and comfortable and secure about being about Allah's business, being about serving and assisting the Prophet in the uplifting of fallen humanity. And if I were to try to change that or take that away, neither one of us would be happy. And I would feel like I'm being very selfish by asking that of him. And so his happiness is important to me. The work that he's doing is important to me. My adjustment was to learn, well, where do I fit into all of this? Do I just stay in the background and you know, let him just go for it and do what he does? Am I supposed to be a part of it with him? Or what role do I play? And I look at it this way. I play the same role I've always played in our marriage. We're in it together. You know, this is his life we're living, but I also have my life that I'm living with him. I was not elected or called to be the head of this movement. So that I'm not worrying about that. And that I'm not trying to do that job. But I have been called to be a support to that and to aid and assist where I can. The biggest adjustment or biggest thing that I think about is how can I be the best example of how a wife should be to a brother in that position. Don't let me do or say anything that is going to embarrass him, embarrass the movement, or give people a bad impression of what this movement and these teachings are about. So in that regard, you realize that you are, in one sense, you're always on display, whether you want to be or not. And that's kind of difficult to deal with, you know, especially when you want to have a private life and have a private time. But as they say, it comes with the territory. So you learn to adjust and you learn to be happy with it.
Islam. And I wanted to get your take on that, Brother R. Jones Bey. How was that adjustment for you when you became the Grand Sheikh and moderator?
How was the adjustment? You know, how can I say? It's almost like, and I'm not trying to, it was almost like when I first came into this, when I first came into the movement, you know, I was intrigued with what people were able to talk about. That's what attracted me because it sounded right. And then after I start really checking it out, I mean, really applying myself, I start seeing what the prophet was offering, was giving. And I was grateful for having the opportunity to be exposed to it. And my mentor used to always tell me, you know, and because my mentor, and that his name was Brother G. Hatchet Bay. And he always instilled in me that this is something you don't play with.
Hmm.
You don't play with this. And he always told me that, you know, always say what the prophet said. Read what the prophet and do what the prophet said do to the best of your ability. And then you will start to understand the thought because the prophet is a thought. Now, I didn't understand a lot of it, but I understood enough to know that I was grateful for what I had been exposed to. So all I want to do is just show Allah that I'm grateful. So whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. Whatever you want me to do.
Wow.
You know? And it's Allah that said, well, you do this, and you do this, you know? And it was an adjustment for me because it was things I like doing.
Right.
I can't do them anymore.
Right.
So, you know, and like she said, this is a 24-hour responsibility. People, and I have to always be conscious of the fact somebody is watching. One slip, and I reflect the whole movement. That's divine.
Islam.
So I have to continuously make sure that I don't slip. And that's difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's difficult, boy, because you know, I don't have the luxury of slipping, becoming a spectacle, and come back and say, I apologize. Because don't the book say to be on guard yourself at all times?
Islam.
So that means, you know, there is an adjustment in being this. It's an adjustment. Your life is, you have to change your life. You should never be in any office in this movement, any office, whether it's this or a local or whatever. You should never be in that office and you're not committed to it because you discredit the movement. So, you know, yeah, I have to watch what I say, man. And then when I do escape from myself, Allah keeps it out the eyesight of the public. Praise Allah for that. But then it ends up inside.
Right.
See, now I got to go inside and I got to deal with that. And you know, when you're conscious or when that voice starts to point out to you your errors, and you got to sit there and be humble, and you can't justify it because there's no justification for it. You know, you got to be humble and ask, please forgive me. And then you got to hope he forgives you. But by him being the most forgiving, he does. You know what I mean? So it's a whole lot, it's a totally different mindset. And then look where I came from. I came from the world. I was committed to the world. I mean, I was committed to the world.
Islam.
So now I got to make an adjustment, man. I can't do that. And there were some things in the world that I liked, but I can't do that. You see what I'm saying?
It's like the song say, the things I used to do.
You can't.
Yeah, I don't do it no more. Right.
You can't. You know, you can't. See, if it's nobody, remember something, especially when you come in leadership. If nobody does this, you got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to, see, I got to be this. I got to be this when I say this, I have to be the message that I bring, that I'm talking about. I have to be it. I got to be it. I don't have no alternative. See, I don't have a choice. I got a choice, but there is no choice. I got to do this to the best of my ability. And that's difficult from time to time. You know what I mean?
And that's the whole thing, is that it's not about perfection. It's
Right.
just
That's right.
doing it to the best of your ability.
That's right. That's the truth. That's right.
Because there you can and you will slip, because we're not perfected yet.
That's right.
But it's what is the intent,
That's right.
and it's how do you handle that slip?
Yeah.
You know, do you have more that that shows on the credit side of life
Yeah.
than on the slipping side?
Yeah.
You know, so that people know.
Right.
If that happened, it had to be a really challenging reason that happened. Because you know how you strive to not let those things happen. But we're not perfect, and he's not perfect.
Right. Praise the Lord for that.
You know?
Yeah.
But you strive to do your best. You strive to give Allah your best, and you pray that it is sufficient.
That's right.
And the final question,
All right, I'll ask. Do you two enjoy being companions, and why?
right.
Most of the time.
Yeah, praise Allah.
Sometimes I have dreams about when I
And
was
so do I. And so
free and just, you know.
and so do
I.
Right.
Allah is blessing is blessing us. Is blessing me. He has not. I cannot say there has been a time when I've gotten any serious thought to not wanting to be with Brother R. Jones Bay.
Praise Allah.
Oh, that's nice of you to say. That's nice of you to say. For all the people listening to, say it again.
Praise Allah.
Okay. No, I look. This has been a highlight of my life. Really, because it showed me. I'm learning more.
Right.
I'm learning, and I got somebody to help me to learn this thing.
Right.
You know, somebody that's inspiration to make me want to, not to make me, but to encourage me to do it. You know, sometimes I get thoughts in my head, right? They are there, but I got somebody I can talk to those thoughts there. And she'll say, look, you need to get out of your head so much. But the fact is, I got somebody I can talk to that understand where I'm coming from. You know, so, I mean, yeah, I'm enjoying the ride. You know, I'm enjoying it. I like it. You know what I mean? No, right? There's no place I'd rather be.
Praise Allah.
Praise Allah.
On earth, in this moment, I'm with who I'm supposed to be with. You know, for that, you know.
And for me, that too has been a growing and learning experience. You know, because there have been times when you wonder, you know, but then you think about it and it's like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to add something that y'all made me think about something. You know, you have to think about your own personality. You know, places where you lack or need adjustment. Like there are certain things in my personality and my character, like in the places where I like lack it, but the Agnes Bay is on like extreme level and like vice versa, you know? And it's like, I think we really balance each other out. Sometimes we can bump heads, but it's never anything too crazy.
That's right.
But, you know, in moments where we may get a little tense or whatever, we have our moment, we come back, we apologize, And,
That's right.
you know, we just keep
Right.
on moving, you know, because it's so important to put Allah and the Prophet in the out front, because when you do that, it's a reminder, because you're gonna have your moments. Mega truth, the false stranger. So we're gonna have moments as long as you make that reparation to the utmost of your power.
That's
We
right.
had that. Since we're getting close to the end, we have 5 minutes. We can do our closing remarks. Do they do it?
Yeah, they can go ahead. We ain't really got to say too much.
All right, praise the Lord. And y'all could give your closing remarks. Is there anything y'all want to let the viewers know, or anything you want to say?
You go ahead, honey. You go ahead.
I don't know. I think if we're talking about the sister being a companion and what goes into that, and being married, the whole thing of being married, I would encourage those who are thinking along that path of getting obligated, of having a companion. Listen to Allah
Yeah, that's right.
and let Allah choose the person for you.
Yeah,
You know, and listen closely, because sometimes we listen and we think it's Allah that's speaking to us, but it's really just us in our head, what we think and want. But when it's Allah, you'll know when
That's
it's
right.
Allah speaking to you.
that's right.
You know, so pay attention to that, and don't just think about what you want in a mate. Think about what you want to be as a mate, and think about what your limitations are and what your strengths are, and what you have to offer, and what you want to have. You know, what would you like given to you, but also what would you like to give?
Yeah,
You know, people a lot of times I see marriages, relationships don't last because people have these over the top expectations of one another. And then there's the other side where you don't have any real expectations. You think you're going to be in love like you feel today forever.
yeah,
And that's not realistic,
that's right.
you know, and you're not thinking about, you know, I'm going to be with this person for a long time.
Hopefully.
Not just sometimes, but day and night, weekends, 24/7. Is this really something I'm ready for?
That's right.
It's okay to take your time and say, I don't think I'm ready right now. Or maybe I need to examine. Fix not suddenly, the prophet says.
That's right.
You know, and I have found those to be so true.
Oh boy.
You know, fix not suddenly. Take your time.
That's right.
You know, and pray on it. Pray on it.
Yeah.
Allah is the best of planners, and He's going to give you who exactly who you need if you ask Him to bring that person into your life. And then just leave it alone. Leave it alone. Go about living your life as that single person you are, to the best of your ability. And when Allah is ready for you to be ready for that other person, you'll really be ready.
Islam.
Keep your hands out of it and let Him do it for you.
That's right.
Praise Allah. And with that being said, once again, I'd like to give praises to Allah, honors the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and honors to our guests, speakers, Brother R. Jones Bay and Sister D. Jones Bay, and honors to our viewers, listeners, and everyone who tuned in to Universal Love for some uplifting information. And we would also like to share with you, please tune in tomorrow to Girl Talk, Real Talk, Moorish Talk at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and Friday Holy Day meetings at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our national Facebook page, and also our Sunday school at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our national Facebook page. And with that being said, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And what's in me is in you, and what's in you is in me. And if we can focus on align each other, we can accomplish some mighty things.
That's right.
Peace.
Peace.
Thank you, brother and sister.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
God
thank you.
bless you.
Thank you.
Praise the Lord.
Praise
Thank
the
you for
Lord.
seeing something in us that you wanted us